and welcome to part 3 of our study on the Lord's Prayer. Today we're looking at the phrase, in heaven, our Father in heaven. If you missed the previous 2 sessions in this series, there's a link in the description below. You can check those out so you can get them in order. But today we're looking at in heaven, that phrase from the Lord's Prayer. There's a place that's different to this place where you are now. I learnt that as a little child. My earliest memories are all in my childhood home. In the winter days, I spent most of my days in the living room playing near where the fireplace was, where it was warm and safe. And initially, we didn't have a TV. There was just an old radio set in the corner of the room. And sometimes I used to sit by the radio set and listen to the voices coming out of the radio, and that was another world, a different world to the one of kind of playing on the floor in the living room. And from the radio I could hear the elocuted voices of the BBC, and even within the radio I discovered there was more than one world. There were different worlds. So there was the boring world of the newsreader that I wasn't really interested in, but then there were other worlds like the Goon Show, where anything could happen, and usually did. And then there was the also very elocuted voice of Listen with Mother, and some posh lady told us stories. So lots of different worlds just within the radio. As I got a little bit older and started walking, I discovered our front room. Now our front room was kept for best, and as 5 boys were not really allowed in there. But later on, the front room gained a piano, and we were allowed a bit more in the room then, and discovering the piano, that was a whole different world for me, and I spent a lot of hours twinkling away on the piano. And in the summer when I was a little bit older, I wandered upstairs and discovered there was a secret room we called the spare bedroom. It wasn't really a spare bedroom, well I guess it was, but there wasn't a bed in the spare bedroom. Nobody really ever went in there, and when I went for a little explore, it was a room, I guess it would be like a lot of people's attics. There were boxes of this and that, boxes of books and magazines and stuff. I particularly remember there were 2 glass-fronted cabinets with butterflies and other bugs pinned onto a canvas. It'd obviously been a couple of display cases at some point, and they were sort of just stored in this spare room, which I found fascinating. And there were little bits of who knows what, and this and that, and oh look, what's this? So I could spend an hour in there quite easily just going through all these, what I considered as treasures when I was a little kid. And the spare bedroom, it really was another world. When I first learned the Lord's Prayer at school, it was in more antiquated English than it is now. So the phrase that we have now, in heaven, was actually, who art in heaven? And it wasn't how we spoke, but I knew about art because my mum was quite artistic and we liked to do art. So when I heard the phrase at school, our Father who art in heaven, I thought it meant that God did his art in heaven. I imagined him there with a little beret perhaps, and his paintbrushes and his palette and his little canvas on the easel. I just imagined God doing his art in heaven. And although I misunderstood the phrase, who art in heaven, I think there's something quite positive about thinking of God as an artist. And the word heaven in the Bible can be quite confusing because the same word has more than one meaning. So in some verses of the Bible, the heaven or the heavens just means the sky. In other places it means the reign of God, the kingdom of heaven. In other places it means the place where God lives. But in the Lord's Prayer it seems to refer to the place where God lives, which is also a bit confusing when we're also taught that God is everywhere present. But just like those different worlds I discovered when I was a small child, I believe there is a new world, a new place where we go to when this physical life is over. In countless episodes of near-death experiences, people describe this experience of floating out of their body and looking down on themselves and then discovering an amazing new world beyond this world. Steve Jobs, one of the founders of Apple Computers, spent his life making shiny gadgets that made people like me and lots of others say wow when he released a product and showed us what he could do. He was the guy who created the wow stuff. When Steve Jobs passed away at the premature age of 56, he was surrounded by his family, who gave an account that as he was passing away, it was as though he saw something in the room that the family couldn't see. And his last words as he stared into what seemed to be a new world were, "Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow." And I wonder if he saw the beginning of heaven. I mean, it must have been amazing to make someone like Steve Jobs say, "Oh wow," 3 times. In St. John's vision in Revelation, he sees a beautiful city that is open to everyone all the time forever. "On no day will its gates ever be shut," he wrote. Throughout history, others seem to have had a vision of this place beyond this life. Now, cynics may say this is just wishful thinking, but I think there are so many things unresolved in this life that it does make sense that there's another world beyond this world that we can see. J.R.R. Tolkien wrote, "There's a place called heaven where the good here unfinished is completed, and where the stories unwritten and the hopes unfulfilled are continued. We may laugh together yet." It seems like heaven is a place where the old things pass away, sickness disappears, and we live in a place where everything is made new. And it turns out God's plan all along was to make us new and healthy and therefore happy. Again, in John's vision in Revelation, Jesus says that I'm making everything new. What a great sounding place. And who knows, maybe in the afternoons, God puts on his berry, picks up his paintbrushes and creates something new and does his art in heaven. Thanks for joining us today. There's more about this series on our website on the blog page. Do have a look at that, rsvptrust.co.uk. Also, if you can partner with us and support this ministry, that'd be fantastic. Check out the donation page. But in the meantime, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button, hit the little bell icon, and I'll see you next time.